Hey, hello YouTube. So we are here today to do a short interview with Dr. Oliver Shipley, who is the senior research scientist at Beneath the Waves. And specifically today, we're going to talk about using acoustic buoy systems to potentially reduce human-shark conflict at beaches. So, Dr. Shipley, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Dr. Oliver Shipley. I'm originally from the UK. I'm a marine biologist with a big interest in sharks. I've been working on sharks for the last 10 years throughout the Caribbean and the east coast of the US. And I'm quite familiar with various kind of tagging and tracking systems that we use to infer where these animals go and what do they do, in their kind of secret lives in
Awesome.
the open.
So, originally from UK, but living in Texas now, right?
Yep, I'm living in Austin, Texas. I was originally I did my PhD in New York on Long Island, and moved to the University of New Mexico for a postdoc, and now I've taken a really exciting kind of leap into the nonprofit world, working with Beneath the Waves as a full-time senior research scientist. So really excited to be taking on this new challenge.
Awesome. And I guess they'll send you your cowboy hat at some point here now that you've moved there. So
We actually bought one at the weekend, so I have one. I don't have it to hand right now, but I have one that I own.
we'll take your word for it. So tell us just a little bit about Beneath the Waves. Like, what's the scope of the mission there? And what do you guys do in general?
Yeah, so I've worked actually with Beneath the Waves now for the last 4 years, and we are a marine-focused NGO, and we undertake research throughout a lot of the world. Areas such as the Caribbean predominantly, and we have a lot of research that we conduct off the west coast of the US in areas such as Nantucket. And we're also expanding some of our research programs, especially over the next few years, into regions such as the Red Sea. I'm actually very fortunate to be going on a trip to Saudi Arabia next week. And the mission of Beneath the Waves is to really, produce cutting edge science that really has a big management impact. We want to ensure that all of the work that we're doing is working with, local and regional stakeholders in the countries in which we work, and the ultimate goal of that is to protect and enhance the conservation of marine resources in a lot of these regions. So management driven science is definitely what we're pushing, and within that, sharks are an amazing platform to help us push our kind of conservation impact forward. A lot of people are excited about sharks, especially over the last kind of 10 to 15 years. And so
Absolutely.
sharks are really kind of our big storytellers, and a great platform for kind of pushing conservation based work forward. At the beginning, the reason that we are interested in tracking the movements and habitat use of sharks is because sharks exhibit very important roles within ecosystems. So they, transport nutrients and energy between, large expanses of the seascape. They're also important for controlling kind of healthy prey populations that we as humans rely on as, seafood consumers and fish consumers. And so it's important to understand the kind of habitats that these animals use in order for us to be able to kind of enhance, conservation of those habitats and make sure that they're sustained long into the future. So that's why, predominantly, at least where my research has been focused over the last 5 to 10 years. And passive acoustic telemetry is probably one of the most cost effective and powerful ways to understand where animals go. And so basically, these monitoring systems are comprised of underwater listening stations. So as you see in kind of that second image there, these are basically hydrophones that sit subsurface under the water, and they're constantly listening for tagged sharks. And so what we do is we kind of place an acoustic transmitter either inside or on an animal, in this case a shark that you can see in that first image there. And whenever that animal moves within 500 to 1,000 feet of that listening station, it sends out kind of a unique identification ping every 180 seconds approximately, and from that we can basically piece together how long the animal has been around that listening station. Now, these listening stations or acoustic receivers, we deploy in what we call arrays. So they are, 10, 20, 30, 100, in some cases, arrays of acoustic receivers that are constantly listening for animals. And based on the timestamp by which an animal kind of moves around those listening stations, we can basically create a movement path or trajectory for the animal. And the great thing about this technology is that it's not just us that are deploying these systems throughout the US and Caribbean. We have an extensive network of collaborators that are also deploying arrays to study not necessarily sharks, a suite of other species as well. But we all share data, and as soon as one of our animals moves past somebody else's receiver, they're kind of uniform in the way that they detect each other, and so we can track animals all the way up the U.S. seaboard if we want to, which is kind of one of the reasons why this technology is so powerful and so useful to us.
So a shark goes by a receiver. Like, what is the real world application then? What happens when the shark moves by the receiver?
In recent years, NFC, which is predominantly the company that produces a lot of this technology, has developed a kind of a radio, a live receiver that basically allows you to track your animals in real time. And so these receivers rely on basically radio signals, so they rely on a connection to a radio tower, and you can basically download real-time data to see which animals are by that receiver at any period in time that you want.
Got it. So shark goes by on a beach where there's a receiver, a ping gets sent off to someone on the beach, they realize that there's a great white that was tagged as in the area, and they can pull people off the beach, pretty much from a real-world application standpoint, right?
I mean, in theory, yes,
yeah.
that is possible. I think there is a challenge, a fundamental challenge in terms of, because a tagged shark is in the water, that doesn't necessarily correlate with an incident or an interaction with a human.
Right.
And so, there is a big conversation around who should have access to that data. Because obviously you want to maintain and manage shark interactions with humans, which are obviously, incredibly rare. And you also don't want to prevent the public from having a good time at the beach either, because the chances of those incidents are, like I said, extremely rare.
So in your knowledge, have you known this to be more of a survey tool, or have you ever seen it actually used on a beach for shark detection purposes to the end that I described? And I don't know if that's ever done, just asking because you're the expert.
I know of several real-time acoustic systems that are in operation off the coast of the US at the moment. I know that there's also some off the coast of the Pacific. I can't speak to the ones in the Pacific, but I know the ones in the Atlantic are currently, to my understanding, not being used, in order to inform public safety real time.
Got it.
At least the receivers that I have been, that I'm aware of, that I've actively worked with.
Right. So, I mean, at least in theory, it's possible.
It's possible because, when an animal of concern, or not necessarily concern, but an animal that is associated with incidents, even though they're comparably rare, such as, white sharks, for example, if a tagged white shark was swimming past one of these real-time receivers, you can receive a text message basically within a couple of minutes of that detection telling you that species has been detected on that receiver.
Got it.
That obviously relies on the animal being tagged in the first place, though.
Right. So some gaps in the system there, potentially untagged animals coming in, and at least it's a start moving away from nets, other inefficient items that would have byproduct kills and whatnot. So a step in the right direction. Where can we find Beneath the Waves out there in the world?
Well, Beneath the Waves, you can find us on several platforms. We have a large Instagram account. You can also find us at www.beneaththewaves.org. We have a Facebook, a Flickr, a Slack, you name it. You can find us on any of these channels there.
Awesome. And I will have them in the comment section of this video. And folks, I will say, if you like wildlife, these guys, their social media is top notch. They have a great Instagram presence. They're very interactive on there. They produce a lot of content, and their YouTube is something you can't miss. They have very high production value videos. They're awesome. It's cool stuff to see wildlife in that kind of social media age presented to folks like us. It's just really cool stuff. So give them a follow on all their socials. And otherwise, Dr. Shipley, thank you for your time. Greatly appreciated. And good luck out in the, Red Sea you're going to? Saudi Arabia?
Yeah, Saudi Arabia at the end of this week here. Well, thanks very much, Jamie. It's been, awesome to connect again, and I'm really grateful for you reaching out to me for some information on acoustically tagging animals. So
awesome. Well, thank you, everyone.